Welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to cover freeform solids and how to modify them. So this will be a little bit different of a tutorial. Freeforms are very much ergonomic. They're very sculpty. So if you think of freeforms as the ability to take a solid, add points and lines and um, patches, let's say, and drag and control those like you're sculpting. So let's go to freeform right here, and we hit our pull down, and we see we've got a lot of different options here. And so I'm not going to cover each of these individually. We'll cover most of them. Some of them are similar. So let's get into it. We're going to start this one with box. And so it's asking for a bunch of different stuff, again, with dialog boxes top to bottom, left to right. Or you could go and combine these two and these two and these two. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and hit all our defaults and see what we get. Okay, so what it's asking for down at the bottom left is to select a plane or planar face. So let's go ahead and pick the XZ plane, and then we're going to pick our center point as our origin. And so now we can get a better idea of what we're looking at here. So this is all curved, right? And it's got two faces in each plane. So if we went ahead and took our length, which is in our X, and increased this number of faces to, let's say, 6, we can see that it starts to square it off a little bit more, and it gets a little flatter on top. And that gives us more places to control this from. So when we get in here, you're going to see that we can grab it by a corner here, we can grab an entire face or a line. And so there's not really any right or wrong with these, and they don't quite work the same as traditional solid modeling as far as sketched and placed features. So it's, like I said, it's a little more freeform. So let's go ahead and look at our front. So in our width, we see we've got two faces here, so we can change the number to 4. Now, an even number, 1, 2, 3, 4, will result in a seam down the middle, and an odd number will result in no seam down the middle. So that's something to think about as you're going through. Do you need that to be there or not? And then we can change our front also to 4, let's say, and that really does make it a little more boxy. Okay. Symmetry buttons here, we can add symmetry so that the sides are all the same. So if I change something to this line, let's say to this vertice, it's going to change it over here as well. This point and this point, this point and this point, and so on. And so we're going to leave these unchecked because you can make them symmetric later. So let's go ahead and get into it. We'll hit OK, and we'll see we've got our purple box here, and we've got Form 1 in our model tree, and all of these freeform tools we have now. Big check mark to finish the form. So if we finish, we can double click it, and then we're back in our Edit Freeform model. So the number one thing that you can do with the freeform that's completely different is you can edit the form. So if we edit form, we're going to see we've got a lot of different options. I'm not going to go and cover all of these. This is truly the kind of modeling that you need to experience on your own. Play around with it. Make solids. Make different shapes. See what happens when you do certain things. You can always undo, right? Save frequently, undo. So we've got some different options here, though. We can pick different entities. So under our filter, we can turn things off. So we've got point, we've got edge, we've got face, and then we've got all. And so right now we're in all, so it's going to select all 3. So if we had something complicated, we only wanted to pick a point, notice that all of our points show up. If we only wanted to pick a line, we can come in here. We cannot pick a point. We can only pick an edge. So something to think about as you go through how you need to select for your particular application. So going into it, let's go ahead and let's just grab this point here, and we notice we get a triad that pops up. And so the triad by default aligns with our coordinate system triad down here. So we've got y, x, and z, and we can see that those all align. So simply put, if I take this point right here and I drag it up, I'm going to get kind of a bulgy feature. And if I drag it down, it's going to go concave. And then I can take this and drag it up, let's say, and now we can see how the model behaves based off of the number of faces that I have in here. The less faces you have, the more pointy it's going to be, because it's trying to do a translation between this point and the rest of the faces to resolve the model. I can also drag it over to here, and if I had selected symmetry, then it would be doing the same thing to the other side. So we can add symmetry. If we undo that, we can add symmetry between, let's say, this face and this face, because this is the opposing face on the other side. And so now we see that line of symmetry here that pops up. And so now if we edit our form, grab our point, drag it up, we see that the same thing happens on the other side. And so now I can take this out, and we can see it's starting to look almost like a video game controller. And then we can hit OK, and then we could come in here and we could do more freeform. You can delete selections. That will turn it from a solid into a surface pretty much. And then we've got all different options here about inserting edges, subdividing faces. So if I only wanted, let's say, this face here to go into a 2x2 configuration, notice that it adjusted this side because I do have that symmetry from side to side now. So that will allow me to only have those two faces be affected, and then I can drag just this out, and you see how it's much more pointy. Okay, it doesn't have to be an edge though, or a point, I'm sorry, it can be an edge. So let's say we pick this edge and this edge, holding control to select them both. Notice they are selected on our other side over here. Now we can drag this out and it becomes less pointy and more rounded because it's grabbing it by the edges, not just the point. So we've got that going on. We can merge edges. We can do all kinds of different things in here. I'm going to cover bridge in a separate tutorial. This is actually really neat, but I'll cover that in a separate tutorial. So that's kind of just an intro to freeforms and the box freeform. And so now we can see that I've got a solid. And like any other solid, I can do anything with this. Notice though that none of this is flat. So even if it looks flat, it is not a planar face that I can sketch on. So here we would have to have a some planes added in here. But if we add a plane, let's say off of our XZ, we can offset a plane up, let's say 1.5. And we can do whatever we want. If we wanted to take those points of that extrusion there, and let's say we wanted to delete them, to cut them out, to make a flat. So we can come in here, we can extrude that as a cut, and went the wrong way. So let's go ahead and flip it. And now I've got that as a flat sitting there. So I can do pretty much anything. I can sketch on here. I can put a point here. Let's say we need a hole to go through here. Again, if it's a hole, it should be a hole feature, especially if this is going to be something that you're going to machine on a CNC machine. Now we can add a hole through our entire part. So this is a solid. We can use surfacing. We can replace faces on here. So there's a lot of different options that you can have. So this is much more freeform, are much more, like I said, ergonomic and much more sculpty, as opposed to more of a mechanical design with extrusions and lofts. It's kind of a segue between doing it that way and using surfaces. So that's going to conclude this tutorial. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.